All right, Jabosai, good morning. Let's begin. Okay, so today's daf. Baruch Hashem. First of all, an incredible yashikah to the beautiful, and I will say, when you see a morning like this, Baruch Hashem, it's a testament to what we say by the siyum. Anu ratzim v'heim ratzim. Everybody has to run for their parnasa. Everybody has to run because that was the call of Adam Arishon. We have to go ahead and we have to run in order to be able to make our parnasa. But on days when we don't have to run, on days Baruch Hashem where there's a little less running, where the lachatz is just a little bit less. So under ratzim v'heim ratzim, when we don't have to run, Baruch Hashem, so we spend our energies, we spend our time, we take our mornings to be able to learn Torah. So halavai, we should be zocheh Yetz Hashem to engage in this type of ritza d'kedusha, this type of hilig, holy running in Yetz Hashem for many years to come. So let's begin. So today's daf is Yurchas. We have a beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us. We're picking up from Yud Zayin on with base 17b, and we are picking up with the Masirin Min Adin, which is 2, 4, 6 lines up from the bottom. So our shir this morning, our shirim this month are dedicated by Sammy and Malka Esterson in memory of their parents, Ludwig Stiefel, Yitzchak Leib and Aaron Acoin, and Hinda Esterson, Hinda Bas Henach Ephraim. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an aliyah, and the families on the Chama. Yes, and also thank you to Michael Terniansky for dedicating the shir this morning. And again, if you have not yet visited his blog of Daf Yomi Limericks, Michael, what's the address?
Yes. DafYomiLimericks.tumblr.com.
Okay, hopefully you heard that. Excellent. Visit that, and it happens to be there. Great. It's actually a wonderful. Besides the fact that it's an incredible testament to Michael's creativity, it also happens to be an incredible way of just solidifying and crystallizing certain concepts that we learn each and every day. So let's begin. So remember, again, we spent the bulk of yesterday's daf focusing on a very dramatic drasha by Rashbi, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai, in which case Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai took a pasuk in Devarim Parakut based pasuk Yud Zayin, the pasuk that says Lo sucha le'echol b'sha'arecha. Torah goes through a list of things that you are not permitted to eat within your gates, which is another way of saying you're not permitted to eat them outside of Yerushalayim. Now, where in Yerushalayim depends ultimately on the item, but you can't eat them out of Yerushalayim. And Rashbi darshan the pasuk, if you remember, again in reverse order. And that reverse drasha ultimately yielded some incredible reality, some incredible halachas. Now, it turns out that at the end of the day, Rashbi's drasha was disproved because Rashbi's drasha was ultimately based on what we'll call like a pyramid system of chumras, starting with Ma'aser Sheni and working its way back. Rava ultimately proves that the drasha or the chumras are not exactly correct, but nevertheless, again, Rashbi gets incredible accolade for the drasha. Shabbos said, the Gemara asks another question. The Gemara says, Rashbi is making a whole system of kal v'chomers based on the reverse drasha of the pasuk, which Shabbos said ultimately comes out that we're willing to punish people. In other words, we're learning out punishments, we're learning out we're learning out lavim, prohibitions from a kal v'chomer. So the Gemara says, do we learn out lavim, do we learn out prohibitions from a kal v'chomer? So we've touched on this concept many times. Even, remember, as a fundamental machlokas, as we know, we take a step back, we know that a kal v'chomer is one of the exegetical principles through which we are able to learn and extrapolate different laws. The shaila is, can you learn out a lav from a kal v'chomer? And the further shaila is, can you learn out an onesh from a kal v'chomer? So what's the answer to that?
Maybe.
Right, good. I'll give you. You're safe. Either however you answer. It's a machlokas about masir minadin, which means can you go ahead and learn an asara? Can you learn a lav out from a kal v'chomer? Onshin minadin, can you learn out an onesh from a kal v'chomer? That is subject to fundamental machlokas. So the Gemara says Rashbi, his whole drasha, we'll say, is based on learning out lavin from a kal v'chomer. It's based on learning out prohibitions from a kal v'chomer. So the Gemara says, can you learn out a lav from a kal v'chomer? Because even one who says that you could punish, that you could give an onesh based on a kal v'chomer, in masir minadin, we do not go ahead and learn out a lav from a kal v'chomer. To which the Gemara says, you're right, isura ba'alma. So all Rashbi is coming to ultimately do is to say that something is usr. Look at Rashi for just a moment. We'll say fourth wide line in Rashi. Isura ba'alma, When Rashbi says that something is asr, it means when he learns out from this rasha, meaning it'll be asr. But if you were to violate any of these isurim, you would not be chayiv malchus. So the Gemara is saying, even Rashbi is respecting the principle of being masira min adin. When he learns out in isr, he's learning out just that. It's asr, but violation would not result in malchus. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Rava said that if a non-Kohen eats from an ola before the blood is sprinkled outside of the walls of Yerushalayim, I will say that English wasn't good, but I mean a person is eating a non-Kohen is eating from an ola before the blood has been sprinkled, right, on the mizbeach, and the actual act of consumption is taking place outside of the walls of Yerushalayim. The Rabbi Shimon loke chomesh. According to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you would get 5 sets of malchus. Now we understand that. We understand that because that's based on his drasha from yesterday. That if a non-Kohen eats from an ola before the blood is sprinkled on the mizbeach and the act of consumption occurs outside of the walls of Yerushalayim, you would incur 5 sets of malchus. I will say, so what do you see from here? You see from when Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai learns out these isurim, it's not just an isser, right? It's not just a prohibition, but rather what is he learning out? He's learning out a chi of malchus. You chayiv 5 times. To which the Gemara says, no. You have to change it to read chamisha isurin avu. You have to read it not 5 malchus, but instead what? 5 isurin. 5 isurin. So according to Rashbi, from based on his kavachomer, Rashbi will respect the fact that you cannot learn out a chi of malchus from a kavachomer. You can learn out an isser. So we're making an interesting distinction. See, normally we assume that if something is an isser, then violation of that isser results in what? Malchus. The Gemara is saying not necessarily. You could have situations where ultimately at the end of the day, violation of a particular isser will still be asr, meaning you violated an isser, but lav davka that it's malchus. So the Gemara says, "V'hanan tanan." What we learned, Elohin halokin, Elohin halokin. These are the ones who receive malchus. And we'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Last Rashi on the daf. V'hanan tanan Elohin halokin v'katani bikurim v'ochlei kodshei kadashim chutz l'kilayim. And I will say, included in the list, this is our Mishnah, included in the list of those who get malchus are those who go ahead and eat bikurim before the kriya. Those who, we'll discuss that more today, and those who eat kodshei kadashim, which are the highest sanctity karbanos outside of the walls of the Beis Hamikdash. So you see from here what? You see from now these are things that are learned out from the list of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai. So you see that when Rashbi learns his kavachomer, he's not just learning it for Isser, rather he's also learning it for what? From Malchus. So says the Gemara. So we're stuck. So just understand where we are. We're stuck with a fundamental question. Which is Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai makes this beautiful, magnificent, riveting reverse drasha that is based on a series of kal v'chomers. And it seems to be that he's learning out the chiyuv of Malchus, the chiyuv of lashes from those kal v'chomers. But how does that stem with the concept of ein mashirin or ein onshin min adin, that we cannot go ahead and learn out prohibitions from kal v'chomer? So the Gemara wanted to suggest he's not really learning out prohibition. He's not really learning out a malchus. He's just learning out prohibitions. We've seen now twice that that's not true. When Rashbi says that these offenses are punishable, it's not just saying I violated a prohibition, but literally he's saying I'm chayiv malchus. How do we understand it? Top of Yichasam Lavra will say Ella kra yiseru. Rather, what's happening over here? Rashbi ultimately again is learning out from an additional pasuk. I will say, what's the extra pasuk? So ksiv v'veis hasham. So we'll say the pasuk says. Now again, I will say these are consecutive psukim. The first pasuk we're about to quote is from Dvarim Perek Yud Beis Halacha Vav. If you have the Torah or Hashalom, you can see the pasuk inside. The pasuk says v'veisem shama olosechem v'zivchechem es masrosechem ves shumas yadchem unidrechem v'nidvosechem ubechoros bekarchem v'tzonachem. So the Torah says explicitly, you shall bring to Yerushalayim, and it lists all of these things: an olah, a zevach, meiser, truma, nidarim, nidavos, bechoros, all the different things. Okay, so therefore, the brother said, "What is the Torah telling me?" The Torah telling me that these items must be consumed within Yerushalayim. Now, again, to be clear, they're not all the same. Some of them just have to be consumed in the walls of Yerushalayim. Others can be consumed. Others must be consumed on Har HaBayis. But watch this. What does it say afterwards? So we'll say the problem is The pasuk says, "V'achaltem," not the problem. Then the pasuk says, "V'achaltem shalom lefnei Hashem Elokechem, usmachtem b'chol mishlach yedchem atam." Torah says, "Bring it to Yerushalayim and eat it there." Okay. Now says the Gemara, "Lichtov rachmana lo suchal laochlam mehadem mefarish bu rachmana lamali." So here's what's interesting. So now there's a follow-up pasuk. What's the follow-up pasuk? The follow-up pasuk is, that's the pasuk that Rashbi quoted. Lo suchal le'echol b'sharecha. You may not eat in your gates. And what does the Torah go through? Torah goes through the whole list of items. Ma'aser degancha, tiroshcha, yitzarecha, b'choros, bekarcha, tzonecha. Why is the Torah coming along and saying lo suchal le'echol b'sharecha? Why is the Torah doing that? Why is the Torah doing that? To give you a lav, right? Because remember again, what's everybody with me? It's like sugar shock from the donuts. Everybody's good. So understand what's happening over here. So the Torah gives me an assay, right? The assay says, which means you have to take all of these sacred items and you have to bring them into your shrine and eat them there. Fine. And the Torah goes through the exhaustive list of all the items. Afterwards, there's another pasuk. The other pasuk says, Lo sucha le'echol b'sharecha. You may not eat in your gates. And what does the Torah do? Go through the entire list of items again. Now, why does the Torah have to say Lo sucha le'echol b'sharecha? You may not eat it in your gates. The Torah already told me ve'avesim shama to bring it to Yerushalayim. So we understand ve'avesim shama is an assay, is a positive commandment. The Torah, by going ahead and bringing down this other pasuk of Lo sucha le'echol b'sharecha, is saying that if you eat it outside Yerushalayim, there's a lav. There's a lav. But here's the problem. Why does the Torah have to list all of the items again? Why list all the items again? You gave me the list of items because you have to eat these items in Yerushalayim. You want to give me a lav? Tell me that if I eat it out of Yerushalayim, I'm in violation of a lav? Fine. Then all you have to need to do is say what? Lo sucha le'echol b'sharecha, period. You may not eat this in your gates, period. And I know what is the this? What is the this? All of the items mentioned beforehand. Why does the Torah Kedosha need to relist all of the items again? It's a good kasha. So the Gemara says, rather lichtov rachmana lo sucha la'ochlam, just right, you cannot eat them outside of Yerushalayim, or you cannot eat them in your gates. Why does the Torah have to list the entire list again? Ella liachudi lohu lavi lechol chad v'chad. Rather, Rabbi say, what is the Torah coming to teach me? The Torah is coming to teach me, Rabbi say, that each individual item has its own unique love. Has its own unique love. So therefore, again, what's happening over here? Rashbi is essentially able to say, I'm not learning out a lav from a kal v'chomer. What am I learning out the lav for each individual item? The fact that the Torah Kedosha went back and explicitly articulated each individual item by itself, that tells me what? That there is a separate lav for each item. So we'll say, feels so much better now, right? Because we had this incredible kasha on Rashbi, right? And we're wondering, how is Rashbi going to be Mataris? Because he seems to learn out a lot from a kal v'chomer. And everybody seems to say we're not learning out a lot from a kal v'chomer. To which Rashbi says, don't worry, take it easy. We're not learning out lavin from kal v'chomer. So what are we learning out lavin from? From a repetition of words in a pasuk. The fact that the Torah feels compelled to restate all of the items once again tells me that each of these items mentioned in the pasuk is governed by its own distinct lav. Good? Good.
So why does Rishon have to throw the kal v'chomer to the price?
I'm sorry?
Why does Rishon
because according to Rashbi, each of those kal v'chomers still learn out something else that's unique. They're not learning out a lav. Remember, again, each of them are learning out some other. He's learning out a unique halacha from each of the kal v'chomers, but not a lav. The lav itself comes from the repetition on the pasuk. The kal v'chomer teaches me other things as we saw yesterday. So let's go back and analyze this a little bit. Amarava. So we'll say now we're going to pay attention to one specific case. Amarava. Zar she'achal min ha'olav l'fnei zrika chutz l'cholos. We'll say this guy's got a lot of time on his hands. So what happens? So there is a zar, a non-kohen. Now there's a number of things that are happening over here. Number one, he's a non-kohen who's partaking of sacrificial items, which is potentially problematic. So a zar who's eating from a carbon before the blood was sprinkled. They're both saying, who's allowed to eat from a carbon before the blood was sprinkled? No one. Right? So number one, even if it was the type of carbon which you could eat from, you can only eat from zrika after zrika. But remember, what kind of carbon is this? It's an ola. The halacha of an ola is it's totally consumed on the mizbeach. So he's partaking of a carbon that is not really partakeable. Right? That again, that you cannot partake of. Right? It is not edible. The halacha is you're not permitted to eat it. So he's eating it before zrika. So remember, number one, you can't eat it. Number two is eating it, even if you could eat it, you can't only eat it after Zrika. He's eating it before Zrika. Number three, chutz l'choma. Rabbi say all karbanos must be consumed in Yerushalayim Yira Kodesh. He is eating it outside of the walls of Yerushalayim. So Rabbi say, so what's happening over here? The Rabbi Shimon Loke Chamesh. So as we already established, according to Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi say you get 5 sets of malchus. According to Rabbi Shimon, we saw this in yesterday's daf. He's in violation of 5 different prohibitions, 5 different malchus. So we'll say now the Gemara is going to say, you know what? There probably should be more malchus that this guy gets. So we'll say the Gemara is just saying. Now remember, Rabbi Shimon Yochai learned. We saw his drashas already as to where he's learning out the 5 malchus. So the Gemara says, aren't there additional isurim that he's violating? Bizarre lo yochal ki kodeshim. The boss said there's another isser. What's the other isser? The other isser is that he's an akoin, right? There's a lot that says that a non-kohen, is not permitted to eat from sacrificial items. So give him another set of malchus because of this. To which the Gemara says, no. I'll tell you why he doesn't get malchus for this. The boss said, listen to this. When do you get malchus for v'zar lo yochal? The boss says, zar lo yochal means that in a case where Kohanim are permitted to partake of the carbon and a non-Kohen partakes of it, there's Vizar Lo Yochal. The boss said this is an Ola. In the case of an Ola, what's the halacha? No one can partake of it. So if no one can partake of it, the boss said there's no unique halacha of Zar Lo Yochal. So what's it interesting? In other words, Zar Lo Yochal is it's like the other side of the carbonic coin. If on one side of the coin there is a coin's ability or license to consume, the flip side of that is wherever the coin has the right to consume, the zar has the isser to consume. Whenever the coin cannot consume, by definition, there is no unique lav for the zar. Fine. What about the following? This is actually very interesting. Why don't you go ahead and give a malchus for the prohibition of basar basad l'trefah? Now let's understand. What does this particular halach? What does this lav really mean? Basar basad l'trefah is a very simple lav, which means what? If you find meat in a field, or an animal in a field, treifa. What's a treifa, Rabbi say? The assumption over in this context is an animal that's killed by another animal. Lo sochilu, you can't eat it. Why can't you eat it? Because it wasn't shechted, right? It didn't have proper shechita. The Gemara ever darshans this pasuk. We'll see this in Masechah Solin, but darshans this pasuk Rabbi say to also means something else, which is what? Kevan sheyatsa basar chutz lemechitzasau ne'esar. Rabbi say basar basada. The Gemara also darshans to mean any meat that has left its boundaries, its permitted boundaries, treifa lo sochilu. You are not permitted to eat it. So we'll say the Chazal applied this pasuk not just to a treifa, not just to an animal that is killed by another predatory animal out in the wilderness that you can't eat it because it wasn't shechted, but this also means the following: any animal which has wandered into the field, which also means what? Any meat which has left its permitted boundaries is permitted. I will say, what's an example of meat which has left its permitted boundaries? There's only one example of that, which is what? Sacrificial meat. Sacrificial meat which must be consumed, again, I will say, depending on the carbon, either within the Harabayis or at least within the walls of Yerushalayim. If it leaves Yerushalayim, if it leaves its boundaries, it falls under the category of Basar Basada Treifalo Sochilu. What's happening in our case over here? The Zar, the non-Kohen, is taking the Ola where? Outside of the walls of Yerushalayim. So why not give him a 6th set of Malchus for basa basada treifalo sochelu? So once meat has left its permitted boundaries, its permitted framework, its mechitzos ne'esar. So the Gemara says, no. The boss said, when do you give malchus for basa basada treifalo sochelu? Or when do you give malchus for meat leaving its permitted boundaries? Only when it was permitted for consumption inside its boundaries. Hacha. We'll say here, remember what kind of carbon we're dealing with? An ola, which means what? It was never fit for consumption, even where? Even inside the boundaries. So we'll say, so essentially what the Gemara is saying is, there are certain prohibitions that could only apply when at some point in time, the actual item, or in this case, the carbon was fit for consumption. But if the carbon was not fit for consumption, like the case of an ola, so you cannot give a zar malchus for taking it outside of the mechitzos. Next, another try. We'll say maybe we should say that we should give him another set of malchus in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. What does Rabbi Eliezer say? Dam Rabbi Eliezer, lo yochal ki kodeshu. The pasuk says, "You shall not eat it, for it is kodesh." Amad Reiser will say, "Kol shebe kodesh pasel." So kol shebe kodesh pasel. Ba kosav litin lo saseh al achilaso. The boss said this is actually very interesting. Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol kodesh lo yochal ki kodeshu. We'll say according to Rabbi Eliezer is like a generic lav. That whenever you do something wrong with sacrificial meat, almost we're going to patch you with another lav. So why not give him a sixth set of malchus? Because I will say, remember again, as much as he's an Kohen, he's eating the meat before Zrika, it's an ola, so it's not ready for consumption, and he's eating it outside the walls of Yerushalayim. He should be in violation of the generic lav of kol kodesh lo yachal ki kodeshu. He may not eat it because it is kodesh. Kol sheba kodesh pasol. Anytime I will say you eat something that is kodesh and pasol, ba kosov litain lo sasa alachilaso. Torah is coming to just patch you with another lo sasa. So give him a sixth set of malchus. So Hani Mili, to which the Gemara says 1 second. That is true when Heicha de Kodim Pisulo Chazi. We'll say again, we keep coming back to the same thing, which is that is only true if what? If before the item became puzzle, it was fit for consumption at some point. In other words, we'll say the item could only become puzzle if what? If at some point in time it was in fact fit for consumption. However, again, Hacha de Kodim Pisulo Namilo Chazi. Here I will say even before you took it out of Yerushalayim, it was still not fit for consumption. Okay, let's try to give him malchus for another thing. Let's try to give him malchus ultimately again for the other position of Rabbi Eliezer. What's the other position?
Amen.
Says the Gemara, "V'nil kinami kidach Rabbi Eliezer." Let's give him malchus for the other position of Rabbi Eliezer. What's Rabbi Eliezer? This Sanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, kol shu bekodol tiya. Litain aslo sase alachilaso. Suppose I listen to this. There's another pasuk. What's the other pasuk about saying? Kodol tiya. What is kodol tiya? That there are certain karbanos that ultimately again are supposed to be totally consumed on the mizbeach. That they are not to be consumed at all. Of course, an ola is an example of that. So why not go ahead and in this particular case over here, excuse me, in this case over here, so what happens? So this individual, this zar, is taking an ola. An ola is supposed to be kadal tia, supposed to be totally consumed in the mizbeach, and now he's eating it. So we'll say, so why not go ahead and say, Rabbi Eliezer says, anytime you take something that is supposed to be consumed in the mizbeach and you consume it, litain lo sase alachilaso, Torah is coming to give you another lo sase for the act of consumption. To which the Gemara says, inachinami. That is correct. That is correct, meaning this would actually make him liable to another set of malchus. So why does Rava only say 5 malchus, not 6? As Rava say, it turns out that a zar, suppose this is good to know, a zar who eats from an ola before the zrika and the act of consumption occurs outside of the walls of Yerushalayim will in fact, in total, be subject to how many sets of malchus? 6. Right, 6. And we'll say, no, 6, correct. Why? We'll say, so 5 based on the pasuk of Rabbi Shmuel Silber and 6 based on the Kadol Tirya. If that's the case, then why does Rava say that it's only subject to 5? To which the Gemara says, oh, very simple. The Rava may high krak amar. I will say, ultimately, again, when Rava says that you're subject to 5 sets of malchus, what is Rava referring to? Rava is referring to the 5 sets of malchus learned out from the pasuk darshan by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Again, there could be other sets of malchus that come from other psukim, as in fact there are. There is one additional set of malchus, excuse me, that is learned out from the drasha of Rabbi Eliezer, based on the pasuk of Kadol Tirya. So ultimately, again, in total, the zar who eats the ola before zrika outside the walls of Yishan will in fact be subject to 6 sets of malchus. 5 come from the drasha from the pasuk of Rashbi, and 1 additional set comes from the drasha of Kadol Tirya. Good. So we'll say, let's go back there. Amarav Gidol Amarav Kohen. We'll say we're switching gears a little bit. Kohen Sha'achal mechatas va'asham lefnei zrika. We'll say, watch this case. Now we're back to a Kohen. So at least in this case over here, we're talking about Kohanic consumption. So a Kohen goes and eats from a chatas and an asham before zrika. So each in the chatas and the asham before the blood is sprinkled, loke. We'll say ultimately again he gets malchus. My timer. We'll say what's the reason why he gets malchus? Va'achlu osma asher kupar bahem la'achar kaparain lifnei kaparalo. So we'll say how do we darshan? So the Gemara says. So remember, this is a kohen who's eating from a chatas and an asham before zrika. So the Gemara now says, or instead of Gidel says the name of Rabbi gets malchus. Why? Because the pasuk says, "Va'achlu osam asher kupar bahem." Those who receive the atonement will eat from it. So I will say, what do we darshan from this? Now I want to be clear: is a kohen permitted to eat from a chatas and a asham? The answer is yes, but when la'achar kapara in lifnei kapara lo. I will say, if you look at the wording of the pasuk, it says, "Va'achlu osam asher kupar bahem." They will eat from them those who achieve kapara. Really, it doesn't mean those who achieve kapara, it means those who affect the kapara. Which tells me that the kohen is permitted to consume or to eat of the chatas and asham when? After the kapara has been affected. They will say, when is kapara affected? When is kapara affected? After the zrik, after speaking about it, we'll say, I'll tell you, we're amongst friends, so we can always speak honestly. Sometimes when you get to these karbanos, like when I hear zrika, so when I say zrika, you put your head down. Right? When I say zrika, so sometimes again, when we get to karbanos, like you say, karbanos, all right, we try to scan ahead a little bit. Are we getting into like karbanos, I guess? Or is this like a long haul, or is this a couple of lines? I can make it through it. I'll drink another coffee. Listen, just you should know. Say when we hear these gemaras, this is an incredible opportunity to yearn for the Beis Hamikdash, because the reason, unfortunately, why we tune out very often when it comes to karbanos is because we say it's not halacha l'maisa. I will say to say those words, it's not halacha l'maisa, makes the neshama cry. It hasn't been halacha l'maisa for 2,000 years. And I will say it can become halacha l'maisa this morning, it can become halacha l'maisa tomorrow, it can become halacha l'maisa literally keheref ayin. So it's a special avoda when we learn these halachos about karbanos. I will say to dafka, not just not tune out, but to pay even more special attention, to say, Ribono shel olam, you know what? I'm having incredible difficulty relating to this. I'm having incredible difficulty finding any little bit of joy in this, any bit of cheshek in this. To be honest, because you can read my mind anyways, so I might as well be honest with you. It's profoundly boring, and I hope it's over soon. Makkos is even better than this, right? But understand that the more we push ourselves to just pay attention to these halachas, retain these halachas, and yearn for this. So, unfortunately, I find it uninvigorating because I haven't had a Beis Hamikdash for 2,000 years. But if you give me back a Beis Hamikdash, I promise that this will become exciting. This will become lamaisa. Allow me to put these halachas into action. I mean, not these particular halachas into action, because this is all people doing things wrong. But lamaisa again. To be able to relate with these sugyas within the chishuk. So we'll say when we learn it, and if we push ourselves a little bit of Islavos, mamish, it's a kiyum of achak yelo b'chol yom sheyavo. So the Gemara goes back there. So why is it that if a kohen eats from the chatas and the asham before zrika, why is it ultimately again that he gets malchus? Because the pasuk says va'achlu osma shekupar bahem, that you can only eat from them after kapara has been affected. So we'll say, what do you learn out from that? Now that is an asay. What's happening over here? You're learning out a lo saseh from the asay. So from the fact that the Torah says in a positive way, you can eat from them after atonement, tells me that what? If I eat from them before atonement, then what? I get malchus. But 1 second, it says the Gemara. So the Gemara says la'achar kapara and if they kapara lo. What is that? We'll say, what do we call that? That's halav alav haba michlal asay lav. We'll say, which is something very interesting. That is a prohibition that is learned out or that is inferred from a positive commandment. Again, on both sides, the Torah never says a prohibition. What does the Torah say? The Torah says a positive commandment. The Torah says, the Torah says a positive commandment. Va'achlu osma shekupar bahem. You can eat from them after kapara has been affected. The Torah is teaching me that I can eat, the kohen can eat from the chatas and the asham one after zrika, but I learn out from there a lav. That's what's called a lav haba michlal asay lavu. That if I learn a prohibition through a positive commandment. So if the positive commandment tells you that I can eat from it after kapara has been affected, the lav I learn out from that is what? That I can't eat from it before kapara. And therefore, Rabbi say if a kohen eats from a chatas or an asham before zrika, he gets malchus. Lav haba michlal asay, a lav that is inferred from a positive commandment is a lav. Massive Rabbi says, 1 second, is that really true? So I say the pasuk says by kashrus. Pasuk says every animal that has split hooves and chews its cud. So babahema in the animals osa tachelu. That animal you could eat. Osa tachelu. We'll say the halach is what? You may eat that animal, in other words, an animal that has these simani kashrus, but any other animal you may not eat. We eat the ka'amrit, and if that is so, Suppose what the Gemara is asking is something very interesting. If indeed you have the ability to learn out a lav haba michlala say, if you have the ability to learn a prohibition based on a positive commandment, then what Rabbi said, that last phrase is repetitive. Once the Torah tells me, so then by definition I understand that what? I understand that halacha l'maisa I can only eat these animals and not other animals. Why do I need the additional drasha of osa tochelu? In other words, we'll say, once the milat haba mechlal aseh, I have the ability to learn out any prohibition from any positive commandment. Why do I once again need the statement of osa tochelu? So the Gemara says, v'idika amrat ezet tochelu lamali. Why don't you ezet tochelu altogether? I can just learn out the lav ultimately again from v'chol behema freses parasa. Ela iyitmar hachi yitmar. Rather, we'll say, if you're going to say the halacha, you have to say it. I'm going to have Gidel, I'm going to have, here we go. Zar sha'ach. So we'll say, we're reframing the Kohanic halacha before. Zar sha'ach al mechatas, va'asham ifnei zrika, potter. Oh, we'll say, what's that halacha? That if a zar, now we'll say, we're switching the cases now. Originally, how do we start? We started with a Kohen. Now we're switching the case. A non-Kohen eats from a chatas or an asham before the zrika. We'll say, at least the good news is what? He's eating it where? It appears in the Beis Hamikdash. You know, so it appears at least in. So okay, at least he's not outside the Chomos. So it's a non-Kohen who's eating the chatas and the asham before the zrika, before the sprinkling of the blood. Potter. The boss says potter from all punishments. Now, why is that? My time. Okay, get ready. Domakra va'achlu osam asher kupar bahem. Because we'll say, what does the pasuk say? Who's allowed to eat? Va'achlu osam asher kupar bahem. Those who affect the kapara are permitted to go ahead and eat from the karban. So how do we darshan? So we'll say, what does that pasuk teach me? That pasuk teaches me two things. Number one, that kohanim have the right to eat from a chatas and a asham, but only when? Only after the kapara has been affected, which is when? After zrika. Watch this. Kol heicha di karinan bei va'achlu osam asher kupar bahem karinan bei v'zar lo yochal kodesh. The both side. Remember we said before that there's two sides to this coin. Whenever a coin is permitted to eat, whenever there is an assay that says a coin could eat from it, there is a corresponding prohibition for a non-coin to consume it. So whenever we say va'achlu osam asher kupar bahem, that's the assay for the kohanim to eat it. There is a corresponding lav that says v'zar lo yochal ki kodesh, v'zar lo yochal kodesh. So therefore, Abosai v'choleicha the lo karina be va'achlu osam asher kupar bahem. And whenever Abosai we don't say that the kohanim could eat it, therefore what? Lo karina be v'zar lo yochal. Abosai, this is a riveting drasha. Why is it a riveting drasha? Because what it's saying is the following. We read this line and we say to ourselves, so can we get this right? If a non-Kohen goes ahead and eats from a chatas or an asham before the zrika, what's the halacha? He's potter. What? So first of all, so potter, means what? Right? Potter means he doesn't get a punishment. Potter doesn't mean there's no liability. In other words, Beis Din is not going to punish him. It does not mean that what he's doing is correct. It doesn't mean that what he's doing is not going to have divine repercussions. But let me get this straight. If a non-Kohen eats from a chatas or an asham before zrika, there's no penalty. To which the Gemara says yes. Why? We'll say amazingly enough, it's a technicality. What's the technicality? A non-Kohen could only be in violation of carbonic consumption. Prohibited carbonic consumption. PKC, right? Just remember that. Prohibited carbonic consumption. You could only be chayiv for that when, Rabbi Hussein, when the Kohen has a license to eat. In other words, only when the Kohen has a license to eat do I, as a non-Kohen, have a prohibition for consumption. So Rabbi Hussein, so therefore, before zrika, who has the license to eat? No one. And therefore, again, if I eat from the chatas rasha before zrika, I'm going to be potter. Get off on a technicality. Only time I'm in violation of the v'zar lo yochal kodesh is after the zrika. Since after the zrika, the Kohen has the license to eat. Therefore, again, I have my corresponding prohibition ultimately of non-Kohanic consumption. It's like amazing. So let's go back there. I told you, karbanos can be riveting. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Karbanos are exciting. We'll say now we're switching karbanos a little bit, going back to Bikurim. So Bikurim, hanocha ma'akev espan, create ma'akev espan. So we'll say, so now we go back a little bit. So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara says, Bikurim, so we'll say Bikurim are first fruits, you have to bring them to the Beis Hamikdash, they are consumed by the Kohen. So Rabbi Loza said in Rabbi Oshia, hanocha ma'akev espan, we'll say, placement of the Bikurim by the Mizbeach, that's ma'akev. In other words, if you don't place them by the Mizbeach, you have not fulfilled the ritual rite of Bikurim. However, Kriya in Makkos. So it's like, remember we saw this yesterday. What's Kriya? Kriya is when you bring the Bikurim, you're saying with them a number of psukim. Also, remember again, I mentioned this yesterday. If you want to see the whole Mikra Bikurim, where do you look? I mean, look in the Torah, obviously, but in the Haggadah. Right? I will say the whole Mikra Bikurim is a major part of Magid. There's a whole discussion of why exactly we use these psukim in the Haggadah for Magid, and not other psukim, not for now. In any event, Rabbi Elazar says that is the Hanocha placing by the Mizbeach, that will say is the most important part of the Bikurim service. The recitation of the psukim is important, but it's not Ma'akev. Rabbi Elazar really say this. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Oshia, Hifrish Bikurim called them Lachag v'Avra Alei Machag. Listen to this. If you separated out Bikurim before Sukkos, Rabbi said, just understand, the optimal time for Bikurim is between Shavuos and Sukkos. If you bring Bikurim between Shavuos and Sukkos, you bring them and you do the Kriya. If you bring them after Sukkos, you can still bring them, but what? No Kriya, no recitation. So watch this. So Hifrish Bikurim called them Lechag. I separate out Bikurim before Sukkos. V'Avar Alei and Hachag. As Sukkos passed, and I didn't bring them. What's the halacha? Yirkavu. Rabbi, you leave them to rat. Rashi says over here, Hifrish Lefnei Achag. It's right across from the back in Rashi. Chal alein chovas kriya, v'avar alein achag, she'enan ru'uyin od lekriya. Rabbi says, if you let them sit until after Sukkos, you can bring them still, but there's no longer a recitation. My lav mishum delo matzi lemikri alehen. Rabbi says, is that not because again? You can no longer read the psukim. In other words, why do they have to rot? It must be because what? Because you can no longer do the kriya. They will say, what does that show you? What does that show you? That kriya is ma'akev. That kriya is important. To which the Gemara says, kriya in ma'akeves amay yirkavu. I don't understand. Fine, I didn't bring them up. I separated them before Sukkot, sitting in just bring them on Sukkot, now after Sukkot. So I understand that now I can no longer do the kriya, but I should still be able to what? To bring the bikurim. The fact that you're telling me that I have to let the bikurim rot seems to indicate to me what? Seems to indicate, I will say that what? That kriya is ma'akev. What's going on over here? Amay yirkavu. Kid Rabbi Zera. I will say, get ready for this. Dam Rabbi Zera. So I will say, this is amazing. No, kriya is not ma'akev. The truth is, you don't have to do the recitation. But watch this. Dam Rabbi Zera. Kalaroy labila in bila ma'akeves bo. Bechin she'ina roy labila bila ma'akeves. So I will say, this is by Karban Mincha. The halacha of Karban Mincha is the following. The halacha is, I will say, that in a particular kli sharis for a Karban Mincha, you could put up to 60 isaron for a Karban Mincha, to 60 isaron. An isaron is a measurement. 60 isaron into a kli sharis for a Karban Mincha. Any more than 60, I will say, so for example, if I plunge 61 isaron for a Karban Mincha, that's fine. 60 isaron could go into one kli, the other isaron goes into one other kli. Why, Rabbi Osai? Because the halacha is, up to 60 isaron could be properly mixed in a kli sharis. More than 60 isaron cannot be properly mixed in a kli sharis. But Rabbi Osai, I want to tell you something amazing. Do you have to mix a Karban Mincha? No. You have to mix it. The halacha is no. But it has to be ra'oi labila. Right? Ra'oi labila means what? It has to be mixable. As long as it is mixable, you don't have to mix it. The moment that it is no longer mixable, then what? The Karban is disqualified. So I say this becomes like a paradigm in halacha. Kalaray labila, anything that can be mixed, in bila ma'akeves doesn't have to be mixed. If it's not mixable, then what? Then the bila, the mixing is ma'akev, which I will say means that sometimes in halacha, all that's necessary is what? That a certain state has to be achievable. I don't need to actually achieve that state, but it has to be achievable. So the Gemara says something amazing. The Gemara suggests now there's something according to Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says that kriya is not ma'akev. You don't need to do the kriya. But what? Kriya must be achievable. So the idea over here is outside the halacha is if I bring the bikurim before Sukkot, fantastic. But if I miss the window before Sukkot, then what? At least according to Belazar, you're done. Why? But 1 second, kriya is not ma'akev. Kriya, and I was supposed to say kriya is not ma'akev as long as what? As long as you could read the psukim. The moment that you can't read the psukim is the moment that, unfortunately, you've compromised your ability to bring the bikurim. We'll say just 2 more minutes, then we're going to stop. Rav Acha bar Yaakov masni lakid Rabbi Asi. So we'll say Rav Acha bar Yaakov. So he stated this halacha in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Asi. Excuse me, Rabbi Asi Rabbi Yochanan. The kasha Rabbi Yochanan. And I will say ultimately again in his version, Rabbi Yochanan is contradicting himself. Rabbi Yochanan does Rabbi Yochanan actually hold that by Bikurim Hanocha is Ma'akev, Kriya is not Ma'akev? Is that what he really holds? Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi say 1 second, but we learned. But yet, Rabbi Asi said, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, at what point in time are Bikurim permitted ultimately again for Kohanim? I'm sorry. So let's read that again. So what does Rabbi Yochanan say? If they're fit for Kriya, then Kriya is Ma'akev. If they're not fit for Kriya, then what? As soon as they are brought to the entrance of the Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says it's a double kasha. Kasha Kriya, kasha Anocha, Anocha. Rabbi says it's contradictory on two levels. Number one, there's a contradiction with Kriya. And number two, there's a contradiction ultimately with Hanocha. And furthermore, again, the contradiction with Hanocha is we're introducing this totally new level of Riyas B'nei Abayis. Where do Riyas B'nei Abayis come from? To which the Gemara says, you're right. Kriya, lo kasha. It's not Kriya. So the two brides, they contradict each other in terms of Kriya, not a kasha. How Rabbi Shimon, how Rabbanon. Rabbi say it's reflecting two different opinions. One is Rabbi Shimon, ultimately again one is the Rabbanon. Hanocha nami lo kasha. Rabbi say the Hanocha brises also don't pose a question. Why? How Rabbi Yehuda v'ha Rabbanon. One is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and one ultimately again is the Rabbanon. My Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi say what's the case? What's the position of Rabbi Yehuda? The sign Rabbi Yehuda Omer v'hinachto. Rabbi say the pasuk says over here by the Bikurim. V'hinachto lifnei Hashem Elokecha. What's v'hinachto? Rabbi Yehuda says zu tenufa. Rabbi say v'hinachto doesn't refer to the placement of the Bikurim, rather it refers to what? The waving of the Bikurim. We're going to get into this. So the Gemara says v'hinachto zu tenufa. Ata omer zu tenufa o eno ela hanocham mamish. How do you know it means waving? Maybe it means placement. Keshu omer v'hinicho harei hanocha. Because the pasuk says v'hinicho you shall place it. V'hinicho literally means what? That's the placement. If that's the case, so what is so if v'hinicho means the placement, what does v'hinachto refer to? Zutnuf. Rabbi said this ultimately refers to the waving. Uman kana de palgalid Rabbi Yehuda, and who is the opinion who argues in Rabbi Yehuda? That is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Desanya v'lokach hakohen atena miyadecha. The kohen shall take the basket of bikurim from the hands of the Israel. Limit ala bikurim shetuunin tenufa div Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Teaches us that bikurim require tenufa, that bikurim require waving. So I just want to point out, so far we're discussing three different parts in the bikurim process. There is, or maybe even there's four parts. There's the hava, there's the re'iyas pnei habayis, they're bringing them to the Beis HaMikdash. There is the kriya, the recitation. There is the tenufa, the waving, and there is the hanocha. There is the placement down before the mizbeach. We'll say, what's the tension over here? What's the tension? The tension is trying to figure out which parts of this process are ma'akev. Obviously, the goal is what? The goal is what? You do them all. They're both saying that everybody agrees that one part is definitely ma'akev, which is what? Part number one, which is Riyas B'nei Abayis, bringing it to the Beis HaMikdash. Everybody agrees you have to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. The problem is, once you get to the Beis HaMikdash, which parts of this process are indispensable? Again, which parts of the three? The kriya, the tenufa, the hanocha, the recitation, the waving, and the placement. Do you need all three? Do you need some of the three? That's what we're working on. So the Gemara says, Limit al habikurim shetun tenufa div Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Ma'itam Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Asya yad yad mishlamim. But we're just going to read this one line, then we'll stop. He learns a gzir shav of yad yad from shlam. Ksiv hacha. It says over here, v'lakacha kohen atenam yadecha. It says by bikurim, the kohen will take the basket from your hands. Uksiv yadav tivi'ena es yishei Hashem. Literally, the hands of the kohen will bring the carbon to the fire. So we'll say ultimately again that's reference to tenufa. Makan kohen. We'll say just like by bikurim. Who's the one who takes it? It is the Kohen. Afla so do by Shlamim Kohen. Malahalon Bailim. But we'll say just like over there, the owners are involved. Afkan Bailim. So we'll say we have. So what's going on over here? By both Psukim, we'll say it seems to be that we're learning out that both the owners and the Kohanim are involved, both by Ola as well as both by Shlamim as well as by Bikurim. Both the owners and the Kohanim are involved. We'll say how could that happen? Get ready for this. Hakitzad Maniach Kohen Yadav Tachas de Bailim Umeiniv. I both say both by Shlama as well as Bikurim, what happens is the owner holds the basket or the owner holds the Shlamim and the Kohen puts his hands underneath the hands of the owner and they do the act of waving together. So we'll say we'll stop over here, but just understand we're still in the middle of this. In other words, we're still trying to figure out which parts of Bikurim ultimately are Ma'akir. I'll just end off with just a beautiful ha'ara. We learned the statement of Rabbi Zera. So we'll say, I promise you, we will resolve the Bikurim issue. It's going to be okay. We will, meaning we will get to resolution. We will figure out in Meretz Hashem which parts are ma'aki, but in Meretz Hashem is going to be in tomorrow's daf. Also, just going back for just one moment, in 1 minute, in Rabbi Zer's statement. So Rabbi Zer said the beautiful idea of kalaroi lebila in bila ma'akeves bo. That as long as, for a karban mincha, as long as it's mixable, right, you don't have to actually mix it. So in the Sefer Be'er Ma'im Chaim, the Rebbe brings down a beautiful, beautiful yesod. He says like this, he says, there's a beautiful application of this Gemara as well. It goes to the Gemara Maseches Kiddushin. Where the Gemara says, what's a famous Gemara? Hamakadish es ha'isha almanas shani tzadik gomer. Right, the man goes out and says, right, he's Makadish, you want to marry me on the condition that I am a complete tzaddik, I'm completely righteous. So that's one of the most famous Talmudic pickup lines, right? Marry me on the condition, right, that I am a complete tzaddik. So we'll say, what's the halacha? What's the halacha? Afa pishu rasha gomer, even though the guy is a complete rasha, nevertheless, kiddush of kiddushin, the kiddushin works. So we'll say, why? The Gemara says, shema her b'tshuva, because maybe he had thoughts of tshuva. So we've actually discussed this Gemara. This tshuva, this Gemara is probably one of the most quoted Gemaras in all tshuva literature. In all tshuva literature. Why? Because what's the profundity of this Gemara? The profundity of this Gemara is, what has this guy done to change his life? What has he done? Nothing. Nothing. The only thing that's happened is he's had what's called a here tshuva. Here tshuva, sort of gift of Zechatat Livracha, or salvation Zechatat Livracha, use this Gemara only. They see in the beginning of the Rambam, and the Rambam even in the beginning of Hilchos Tshuva seems to make reference to this here tshuva concept. In any event, so the idea of here is maybe he had thoughts of tshuva, and therefore again the kiddushin is good because he's a tzaddik. So the Be'er Ma'im Chaim asks, "Ulechora, afim here b'tshuva, eich naaseh bazeh tzaddik gomer, halo adayin hu meshukatz umetunaf b'chol minei resha." So the Be'er Ma'im Chaim says, "I don't understand. So what did he had here tshuva? So what did he had thoughts of tshuva? The guy in his lashon over here is pretty stark. He's meshukatz, he's metunaf, he's a bit unclean, right? A bit unclean. Meshukatz, metunaf, meaning the guy is a rasha. The guy was just sinning this morning. He lived his whole life in this terrible, depraved way. And now suddenly, because maybe he had a thought of tshuva, that's it. So we'll say, what's the pshat? Get ready for this. So the Rebbe says so beautifully, Ella, kevan shekvar ra'oi lekach, ein bila ma'akeves. So the Be'er Ma'im Chaim says so beautiful, that once you have hear her tshuva, once you have thoughts of tshuva, once you have a thought that, you know what, I need to change, I need to live differently, once you're ra'ui to change, ein bila ma'akeves. I don't, Rabosai, the power of tshuva is, I don't necessarily have to change anything immediately. I just have to make myself ready for change. Once I'm ready for change, the fact that I have not yet changed does not go ahead and in any way take away from my piety, from my virtuosity, from my beautiful spiritual cleanliness. Says the Rebbe, that's what we learn out. That's kol sharoi labila ein bila ma'akeves. As long as you're mixable, you don't have to be mixed. As long as at the end of the day, you are ready to do tshuva, as long as you're in a spiritual cognitive state where you realize you want to change and you have to change, the fact that you have not yet changed is not ma'akev. In the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and in the eyes of yourself, you have to look at yourself ultimately as a tzaddik gomer. All right,